For 50 years, author Charlton Ogburn, like his parents before him, has been waging a lonely battle against William Shakespeare of Stratford.
I think it's the shame of the English-speaking people, British and American, that they have taken these plays, incomparable in literature, of whom the German poet Heinrich Heine said, "Of course God comes first, but surely Shakespeare comes next." This man who is next to God as a creator. We've taken his work and we've vested it on this miserable, unattractive Stratford man of whom nothing good was ever said except that he was a natural wit. The Stratfordians would argue that it's like spontaneous generation. They are like the Christian fundamentalists who believe that life was created bang, like that, overnight, all complete as it is. Just the way the plays of Shakespeare were completed bang in his brain without any background at all. How could anybody have thought that a man who could barely sign his name was the greatest writer in the English language, whom nobody while he was alive ever, to the best of our knowledge, ever identified as the dramatist Shakespeare, a dramatist of any kind or any kind of writer? What I hope will happen is that the true author will be recognized. It is the greatest detective story there ever was. It's the greatest story in literature in my mind, and you can't help getting absorbed in it and excited about it. And furthermore, you can't help feeling its importance. You want the man who conferred the greatest glory on English letters to get his recognition. It's a matter of simple justice.
The Shakespeare question entered the life of Charlton Ogburn's family with a magazine article 50 years ago. When his parents wrote their own anti-Stratfordian book, they were left in no doubt about the price of heresy.
I was concerned with the terribly unfair attacks on my parents. It was really scandalous. They were saying that they were snobs, that they were freaks, that they were crackpots and cranks. My father was a sensitive, educated gentleman, one of the last of the real Southern gentlemen, in my view. I think I probably resolved at that time to strike whatever blow I could in the future in defense of the truth about the Shakespeare authorship. I think Hamlet was Oxford, and I don't see how anybody who knows anything about literary creativity can fail to say that the author, whoever he was, has given his picture as Hamlet. This is written from the inside. Things happen in Hamlet not according to a preconceived plot, but as they do in life. And I think Hamlet's death was very much what Oxford had in mind for himself as he drew towards the end. I think that Oxford wanted his cousin, Horace or Horatio, to explain what his situation in life was, to explain that he wasn't the wastrel that he appeared on the surface, the spendthrift, the betrayer of his wife. He wasn't all the things that he's gone down as being, which were marginal with him. He wants Horatio to explain what he really was. I know what it cost him to write these plays. I know what it cost him to have to give up any hope of being acknowledged as the writer. Guys, you read the sonnets and you see it. Though I once gone to all the world must die. That's a tragic cry from a man. He saw himself as Lear, I'm sure. Not that his kingdom was lost, not that his kingdom was made over to his daughters, his literal kingdom, but that the kingdom in which he lived, his works, were being alienated from him. He felt as Lear did. And for the first time in his life, I think, Oxford, this really quite haughty peer in some ways, was brought to feel the humanity, the common humanity with mankind that King Lear was brought to feel. And yes, I would like very much to see this man get the credit that's his due. As a person, I do feel his presence as a person, yes. But I think he had a hell of a raw deal.
Are there any lines just which you always look at in the plays or in the sonnets that bring this feeling of sadness and loss most clearly to mind?
Well, I suppose the lines that make me realize that he had looked on, he had felt with utter despair, that he knew utter despair as probably no other human being who wrote as eloquently had ever felt. And those are the lines that Macbeth uttered when the news was brought to him of his queen's death. I don't think you need having them recited, you know what they are. And, but they do, they affect me terribly when I hear them.
Can you try to tell me what they are?
I'll try to tell you what they are if my emotions don't get the better of me. Please remember, I've been awfully sick. But the lines are, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day till the last syllable of recorded time. And all our
yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying
nothing.
Nothing.
Yes, I feel that very strongly. Excuse me. But I know how the man felt who wrote that. We all know how he felt. Black, utter despair that's never been so eloquently expressed before and probably never will again. So I like to turn to that, to other things he wrote. I don't like to dwell on it too much. But I can imagine how he felt, as Hamlet felt as he was dying, pleading to his cousin to put his cause aright to the unsatisfied. I'd like to help do that. Here we have these greatest works, literary works of man. Why had they vanished? And their disappearance down to the last line of manuscript is an enormous mystery, an enormous mystery. The monument in the church in Stratford is the most peculiar monument that I've ever seen. Why does it say, read if thou canst? Well, if he can't read, how is he going to read this injunction? Whom envious death hath placed within this monument Shakespeare, actually. Well, obviously, death nor anybody else has placed anybody in the monument because it's too small. To me, it can only be explained as saying that death hath placed Shakespeare, meaning Shakespeare's works, within this monument. Now, I don't know whether the manuscripts are in the monument. God knows. I've no way of knowing. All I say is that if someone else has an explanation of what this inscription means, let him come forward and say so. Nobody else ever has. All they say is, it's just poetry. I felt that it was worth anything to look in this monument if there's only one chance in 10, one chance in 50, to see if the manuscripts are there, and I'd like to see the monument explored.
Nothing.